Hello everyone, I'm Joey from Lock Props. Today we're going to be going over the top 11 things that you need to get started in foam smithing. I may even have a bonus one for you at the end. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can go into cosplay, but the way that I got into it was actually through foam smithing. What's foam smithing? Well, you are actually using EVA foam to create your props and costumes or armor. Think of like floor mat foam from like the gym where it's all checker pieces or jigsaw pieces, and EVA foam comes in a lot of different sizes from 1mm all the way up to 2 inches from what I've seen. You can even get it to be in dowel form, you can get it to be in square form. There are a lot of different forms that EVA foam can be sold in. That way you can use it for whatever project that you need it to be. But let's say for instance you go over to your local Hobby Lobby and you get a size of every single foam that you can find there, but then you're wondering, what tools do I need? So tool number 1 is going to be razor blades. Now this is the kind of razor blade that I would recommend for most people, mainly because it can extend pretty far out and you can be able to actually cut through some of the thicker pieces of foam without having to score it multiple times to get it cut. Then for the smaller intricate details, I do recommend the X-Acto blade. While I was learning, I saw in a lot of videos that they were using the one that can extend out entirely. The thing is that you just have to be careful with this, just so then that way you don't cut yourself. But I have used another razor blade in the past where it has a safety feature where it can only go out this far. But for thicker foam, you can't actually get through it. So I would say this is going to be the best bet. Which, if you are going to be using razor blades to cut these out, that brings us to the tool number 2. Also, the affiliate links are going to be down below for you. If you use those links, that helps me out greatly, and I thank you. Second tool that I would recommend to accompany tool number 1 is going to be this Kershaw sharpener. This is one that I would recommend that you pick up as well, so then that way you can sharpen your blades, so then that way they're constantly sharp. A dull blade is actually very dangerous, so make sure that you're constantly sharpening as you go. The blade on the one that I just showed you, I've probably had now for close to 6 months now because I keep sharpening it. If I were to not have this, then I would have to swap out that blade every week or so, and that can get very expensive. Tip number 3 is when you're going to be tracing out your template onto the EVA foam, I always use Sharpie. Now you can use pens. I have used those in the past before, but I think that they're just way too small for me to see, so I just like the thicker lines with the Sharpie. For the darker foam, I would recommend using the silver one, and then for the lighter foam, use the black one. For tool number 4, it is actually going to be this right here. This is the cutting mat. Now, if you're going to be cutting EVA foam out, you want to make sure that the blade is actually going all the way through, so it has to be touching the surface that's underneath it, and you don't want to do it on mom's coffee table. She'll get very mad at you. Mine did. And so when you're cutting, it's not going to be harming the surface. This is meant to be cut, so you want to be able to actually use this to cut all of your foam out of. This also has a nice grid pattern and it has a ruler on it. I use this all the time instead of having to bring out my ruler and make sure that something is straight. This helps out a lot. So I happen to have this one that spans the entire work surface. Honestly, for this is a lifesaver. By the way, if you're also getting value out of this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Tool number 5. So you cut out all your pieces. Now you have to piece them together. How are you going to do that? You are going to be doing that with contact cement. Contact cement is toxic, so make sure that you wear a respirator with this. I'm going to put a respirator down there. The $50 respirator is going to be much more cheaper than a $50,000 lung transplant. Do not breathe this in, please. This is going to be great because you put the contact cement on one side and you put it on the other, let them dry for about 3 to 5 minutes. Then once you piece them together after 2 good coats, they are stuck together until the apocalypse. But the downside though is that this kind of gets everywhere. So this is really meant for bigger pieces, but if you wanted to have small, intricate little details, I do recommend super glue. Because of the thin nozzle at the end of this, this is going to be able to give you just a drop, and that should be able to actually fuse pieces together without any issue. Tool number 6 is going to be the heat gun. A lot of you in my previous videos have asked where do you get a heat gun, and I feel like that they're actually pretty easy to find. Of course, like this one here is just a little expensive because it's battery operated. You can easily get a heat gun for 15, 20 bucks. Harbor Freight sells it for 20 bucks, and that's actually how I got started. But then once I got tired of having a cord always like attached, that's when I just switched out to this. But the heat gun is what? The heat gun is mainly meant to seal the pores of the foam. Since it is porous, when you apply a high heat to it, just a couple of seconds, it will actually shrink up the foam pores. That will allow a sealer like Plastidip or Mod Podge or paint to actually adhere really easily to the foam. And if it's porous, it will actually suck in all of those liquids, and you have to apply multiple coats for that. So beat it at the pass and heat seal it first. You also use this to heat shape foam. When you are heating it up, you can basically put the foam into any kind of contorted shape that it wants, and it will actually keep that shape, unless if high heat is applied to it again. Now I know that I said earlier that I have this mat that has the grid and the ruler on it already, but when you are cutting out straight pieces, use an actual metal ruler on this. I have two different rulers for this. I have an 18-inch and then I also have a 40-inch for very long pieces. I do recommend getting them with the foam on the back here, so then that way it doesn't slip and slide while you're in the middle of cutting. So make sure that you get at least the metal ones. Don't get plastic ones. The razor will go through that and then go through your finger. I would know.
How's my son?
He's going to be all right.
Oh,
Thank God. He's lost his left hand, so he's going to be all right.
you son of a...
This one I kind of debated on whether or not if I should put it on here, but I use it for every project when it comes to foam, and that is going to be Plastidip. This is what seals the foam to help it be water resistant, and it also applies paint very well. I use it on all my foam pieces, and I always recommend to do Plastidip, at least 3 coats of it for every single EVA foam project. When you are going to be using this stuff, make sure that you put it in a little bucket of warm water for about 5 minutes, not boiling. Make it warm, so then that way when it sprays out, it comes out as a fine mist rather than just like these little splotchiness. So make sure that you are warming this up beforehand and really give it a good shake. Now, this next one is actually the workhorse of the shop, and it is my Dremel. When I first started out, this was the thing that helped me out so much, and I know it will help you out too. This is the normal Dremel itself. There's normally a small little chuck on it, and you have to sand it like this. Because your hand cramps really bad if you're just holding it like this constantly as you're shaving it, apply this flexible shaft to your Dremel, and then that way it's like holding a pen. And you're just very easily just sanding things down. It's very nice, and I absolutely love this. If you get a Dremel, definitely make sure that you have the flexible shaft.
What did he say?
Don't demonetize me, YouTube. So after you piece 2 pieces of foam together, you have a seam that you now have to clean up. So what I typically use to clean that seam up is going to be air dry foam clay. Now, of course, there's something out there called just Cosplay clay as well, but it's just air dry clay. Use a little bit of water and this onto the seam line, and then that will actually clean that up. Let it fully dry before sealing it. And of course, because people will bring it up, you have Quick Seal as well. Quick Seal is a silicone base, like cured caulk. I want to pronounce that right.
Just go to your local home improvement store and ask for the big black...
That will basically act the same exact way. Only downside though, that, I mean, when I was working with this, is that it doesn't want to sand very well at all. And so that was my biggest problem with working with this, as well as it dries up and I can't use it. This, I know that if I leave this alone for a year, this will be okay as long as if it is properly sealed. This though, I put the cap on, I made sure that it was closed, but it still has completely just hardened on the inside and I can't use it. And it's $6 every single time I go to the store for this. This is $6 and I just picked this up instead, and it will last me a whole lot longer and I'm able to sand it down. Personally, I like the air dry foam clay. If you are team Quick Seal, hey, you do you, boo. I forgot which tool we're at now. I'll probably just put the number in there somewhere. But this is the bonus one. This is going to be the belt sander. So much like how the Dremel is the workhorse of my shop, slowly it's kind of transitioning to have it be the belt sander, because when I'm sanding and shaping things down, Sean Connery just came out of there. When you're sanding and shaping things down, it is much easier and faster to do it with a belt sander. Granted though, be very careful with it. I have sanded my knuckles before because of this and it hurt really bad. So just be very careful when you are using it. The nice thing is that you can change out the belts on it from an 80 grit to 1000 grit. And when I use 1000 grit on foam, it makes it so smooth. So if you happen to have a space that's big enough to have a belt sander, also wear your respirator because that dust gets everywhere and it gets up in your nostrils, and you'll have foam boogies for the longest time. What was I saying? But if you have to just work with the Dremel, that works just fine too. Sandpaper also works too. So I think that's it for the tools. I think we did pretty good today. But, you know, if I forgot anything, I know you guys will let me know in the comments. I know you will. But with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.